I got to do two parts because it cut me off. So you say discreet in the Greek, it's
Strong's G 4998. Sophron.
sophron. Sophron. Okay. So now it says of a sound mind, sane in one's senses, curbing one's desires and impulses, self-controlled, temperate. You see? That's what discreet is to mean you're curbing your desires as a woman, like that girl I gave the example of, the girl the woman I was dealing with, and she had a daughter, and she was giving her fucked up advice, telling her, oh, you need to find a better man, he treats you bad, and this and that and the other, and this and that and the third. No, you got it. And that's one of the things as a man in this ministry. You listen, I have daughters, and your daughter come to you crying, because I have the adult daughters. You could come to you crying like, hey, this guy, man, get buckle down, get back to your husband. What are you supposed to tell her? I'm a prophet. You're a prophet. You're calling yourself a prophet, but you're telling your daughter to be a whore. And really, even for the women, it's best for these women to be just, it's best for them to be celibate, really. Because there's nothing wrong with being celibate, especially as a woman. Especially as a young woman, which, that ain't going to happen. That's not realistic in this society. But we know we know we're coming down to the end, but that's the thing. You can't convince people. Only the elect really believe that we're in these last days, So it's tough, man. It takes discipline, to be discreet, chaste, right? Let's get that real quick, that word chaste in this verse. That's what I wanted to get, but I accidentally took my finger. When I don't touch the screen, it fucking closes this shit right up. After so long, of not touching the screen, that's when the video cuts out. So the word chaste is, there we go.
Strong's G53. Hognos.
That's chaste. Oops, I accidentally hit it
Strong's
again.
G53. Hognos. So
it means sacred. Okay, exciting reverence. Reverence goes into respect. Venerable, sacred, pure from carnality, modest, immaculate, clean. You see. And that's why even the men, we're likened into chaste virgins, right? When we come into this knowledge, when we come into this truth, we're likened into those chaste virgins, which means we're pure. We're being made holy. Okay? That's what that goes into. Verse 6, young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded. And again, the biggest takeaway from this soberness is being sound with the doctrine. We can't be teaching things that are not of the scriptures. We can't be teaching lies or beguiling the people, That's why it talks about, let's grab that because this kind of lines up right what we're talking about. Revelation 14, starting at the 3rd verse, it says, starting at the 4th verse, it says, these, it's talking about the prophets, 144,000, the only ones that can learn the song, right? That's what it says in verse 3. It says, these are they which were not defiled with women, which women and wine are both metaphors for doctrines, for they are virgins. Okay, now does that mean that the prophets never had sex with women? No, it means we're those chaste virgins. We're pure, just like we read when we read that word chaste. Okay, so that's what it is. We're chaste virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth, Yahushai. These were redeemed from among men, being the firstfruits unto the Most High and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, no trickery, no lies. The only thing you can find in the true prophet's mouth is sound doctrine. Okay, for they are without fault before the throne of the Most High. All right, and then I'm going to go back to Titus. Verse 7, it says, in all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, and sincerity. Okay, so there it is. That's what this whole lesson is turning into from this chapter, is going into the sound doctrine, man. It goes back to that. Gravity. Let's get that word gravity. I actually got it earlier and I already forgot what it said, because I read this earlier. It's what triggered me to do this lesson, was what inspired me to do this lesson. But it says, in all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing uncorruptness. You can't corrupt the doctrine, man. That's what a lot of these Hebrew Israelite groups, they do that. They put corruption in the doctrine, which there's a heavy price to pay if you're doing that. All right, so let's get it real quick in the Greek.
Strong's G 4587. Semnates.
That's what gravity is in Greek. So let's see, what does it mean? It means purity. It says the characteristic of a thing or person which entitles to reverence and respect, dignity, majesty, sanctity, honor, purity. All right, so going in with what the prophets would be. This is how the women should be taught to be pure, to be honorable. Have some respect for themselves, dignity. Sanctity. That word sanctity, it goes into to sanctify. It means to be made pure, to be made cleansed, to be clean. That's where you get the word sanitize. Okay, our elder Gabar, he always goes in on that. So let's go back to the scripture, Titus, verse 8. Sound speech that cannot be condemned. So when you're teaching sound doctrine, ain't nobody can condemn the truth. Okay, that's why our elders would get on these other groups, because why? They're not speaking sound doctrine. So then in turn you have to condemn a teacher who's not teaching soundly. If they're teaching things that don't add up, that don't line up with the scriptures, well, guess what? One of our titles is the Defenders of the Gospel. You see, I just read that in my lesson yesterday. What was it? Was it Ephesians, or let me see, Philippians, I think. Let's see. Let me see if I can grab that verse. But one of the things that we do is we defend the gospel, right? Here it is right here. Philippians 1:17. But the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. Okay, so we go back to Titus. So that's what it is. Sound speech that cannot be condemned. If you're speaking sound doctrine, and the GMS is not going to condemn you. But if you're teaching things that don't add up, or you come into the camps and you're splurging out your mouth vanities, and you don't know how to keep your mouth shut, and you're trying to speak over the prophets, you're going to be condemned in the spirit. And we're gonna cut you with the word. We're gonna cut you with the words that are from the scriptures. We are defenders of the gospel. Okay. And if you're teaching lies, you're teaching, your mouth has guile in it, right? Remember, the prophets our mouths don't have guile. We don't have deceptions. We don't have lies in our mouth. Okay? That he is, it says, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. Right. Nobody can say any bad thing about us. Like the elders, they'll never speak against these groups if they're teaching soundly. Matter of fact, when the groups, these other groups like the IUIC, the GOCC, even the Sakari, or now they're known as Genesis, if they're teaching sound doctrine, if they're teaching things that are true, well, guess what? I've heard Elder Apostle Gabar and Tahar say, hey, he did good here. I've even heard him say that about Bishop Nathaniel. They've been, oh yeah, he was Bishop Nathaniel was on point with that breakdown, right? So we don't just wake up and say, oh, we're gonna go attack the other Israelite camps. No, it's gotta be provoked. We're gonna defend the gospel. If you're teaching lies, if you're teaching something that don't add up to the scriptures, you bet your ass, the GMS is gonna give you a spiritual ass whooping. All right? We're gonna knock you into shape with the lessons, with the camps. We bring you up in the camp talking about where you went off. But this isn't something that we wake up and say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna you go ahead and jump on IUIC today. No, it's gotta be provoked. If you're out here speaking things that don't add up, guess what? That's our job. We're supposed to defend the gospel. Okay? Verse 9. Exhort servants to be obedient unto their own masters, and to please them well in all the things, not answering again, not purloining, okay, but showing all good fidelity, that they may adorn the doctrine of the Most High, our Savior, in all things. And when you adorn the doctrine, it means you're making the doctrine beautiful. And it's a beautiful thing when men are breaking down the scriptures correctly. If you're not doing that, it's fucking an ugly ass thing, right? You're out here teaching something that doesn't add up, teaching something's not sound. It's fucking ugly as fuck, man. We're gonna defend it. Okay? And that purloining, it means to set apart, to separate. All right? But it's going into like your embezzle. It says to purloin, to embezzle, withdraw covertly and appropriate to one's own use, to set apart or separate for oneself, to set apart, to separate or divide. Meaning, like when these camps go off and they're teaching lies, they're separating themselves from the truth, right? Or when they do something for a gimmick, they use a gimmick, a wicked gimmick, and it's to set them apart so that, what's an example? Like when fucking Sakari was having their Passover a couple years back, and they're selling tickets for the buffet and shit. They were treating the Passover as a buffet. Well, they set themselves up to make money, and they set themselves apart to make money on the Lord's Passover. That's a good example of purloining. Okay? Verse 11. For the grace of the Most High that brings salvation hath appeared to all men, all the men of the elect, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. All right, so that's what it is. We got to deny the ungodliness, and if you're out here going off on the scriptures and you're not teaching right, you're not teaching soundly, then guess what? That's ungodliness. Like the example I just gave, when they were they had buffet tickets and shit. You could buy a ticket, $50 ticket for the buffet Passover. And that's fucked up. That's what these dudes were actually doing. They were actually, and now you see how corrupt and how much the Yahweh Bashim Shai exposed them, especially their leader, right? What's his name? Eleazar. High Priest Eleazar is what he was calling himself, right? And he was making all kind of money off that buffet Passover, which that's a worldly lust. He's just trying to, he's doing it for the bag. He's not doing it for Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, to glorify Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. It says we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world, looking for that blessed hope and the glorious appearing of the great power in our Savior, Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Right, so we're doing this to glorify Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. And we're doing this because we're waiting on Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. We're not doing this to be celebrities. We're not doing this to get rich. We're not doing this to, for clout. We're not doing this so we can get a bunch of women. I mean, that's going to be a reward that we get in Isaiah 4:1 when that prophecy comes to pass. But for now, all we're doing this, the men who are sincere, the only thing you're worried about is to glorify Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai and to teach Yahweh's word soundly, incorruptible, and defend the gospel when needed. See? It says, this is talking about Yahweh Shai, it says, who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works. These things speak and exhort and rebuke with all authority. Let no man despise thee. Okay? So, hey, this is what we do. We rebuke with authority. Okay? We're not going to be soft-spoken like these pagan Christians and tell you, oh, I'm going to pray for you. No, we're going to rebuke you with all authority. That's the way Yahweh Shai taught. We're in the same spirit of Yahweh Shai. We're not in that fake-ass, soft-ass, weak-ass Jesus Christ spirit and telling you, oh, I'm going to pray for you, even though you're teaching lies and shit like that. You know what I mean? Let me get that word despise real quick, and I'm going to start wrapping it up. Let's see. This is despise, okay? In the Greek, it's
Strong's G 4065. Perifraneo. Perifraneo.
perifraneo. That's how you say despise. So you say, it says to contemn or to despise, to consider or examine on all sides, carefully, thoroughly. So, but that's what it is, man. We rebuke with all authority. We defend the gospel. If you're not teaching soundly, then don't be surprised when the true men of the Lord get on your ass. And the other words that come on this despise word is to think beyond or to depreciate, right? So nobody's going to overlook us, especially we're not going to be depreciated, We're not going to be depreciated. We're not going to let nobody think beyond us, like think that, oh yeah, these guys are teaching, I'm talking about them, that they can't be teaching their madness and think that we're not going to get on their ass and they're going to just be able to just blow us off to think beyond it. No, man, we're going to defend the gospel. You're not going to look at us as in a spirit of depreciation. No, you're going to appreciate. If you're the elect, you will actually appreciate the fact that we're getting on these other camps that teach false doctrines or teach, bullshit. We're not going to be overlooked. We're going to defend the gospel with authority, okay? So with that, I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the other apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect. Shalom.